Boulder, I just exit to go to Boulder.
Microphone on.
Off of I-70, and then I do the back road.
I can see it.
Yeah.
If you could have the crescent.
Yeah.
The point crescent.
You need that.
I can pull it up on.
Better than shorts, right?
Okay.
Wow.
See, that could carry through the end.
That's right. I just did grounding and opening. Did do our bike ride. We didn't do the. I get it. It's friends the last 2 days.
See the little play-by-play collecting.
Real great.
I did not see that.
It's in the.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, you can look at this. Or in.
Nice, appreciate it.
But depending.
Yeah, I didn't, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for making this alternate time work. I'm just getting my stuff together here. So we'll call the meeting to order. I think the first thing on the agenda is just the meeting minutes. So unless anyone has any comments or questions, I would accept a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Minutes approved. Sorry, I'm trying to connect to the Wi-Fi. There we go. The next item is public comment. I don't know if we have any additional folks from the community for that, so we can move to the action items, which is the CPAC chair and vice chair elections. Looks like inside of our packet for today, we have the process for this. So the first step looks like nominations. So I would open the floor for nominations.
I nominate Michelle Cook. Again.
Okay. Any other nominations that anybody would like to include?
I'd like to be considered for vice chair. Is that now also?
Sure, yeah.
That would be less surreal for vice chair.
It says here that there's no second required, but for nominations, the nominee must accept.
Oh, I accept. I'll do it.
Great. If there are no other nominations, we'll close the nominations. Can we have a second for that?
I'll second both nominations.
Great. So then there's a roll call vote.
There's one step we need to do before Michelle can become chair.
Oh, okay.
Michelle, since you're an
Voting.
alternate,
The initiation.
someone will have to renounce their voting membership. So Suzanne, if you wouldn't mind for the record, renouncing your membership
You're
to
renouncing
become
your-
an alternate.
I would like to go from a membership member to an alternate member.
Okay. And then Michelle, would you just say that you would like to become a voting member?
I would like to become a voting member. Thank you, Suzanne.
Is everyone okay with that?
Aye.
I get some verbal. Okay, cool. Okay, so Suzanne is now an alternate and Michelle Cook is now a member. And we can do a roll call vote for Michelle Cook to become chair of CPAC. Julie.
Yeah.
Okay, Frank. Lesha. Brian.
Yep.
Dan. Yes. Michael
Yes.
and Chris.
An alternate.
Okay, congratulations, Michelle.
Oh, thank you.
Woohoo. Sue.
What a day.
Okay, and now for vice chair. For Lesha. Julie,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
and Michelle.
Yes.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Official. We're so official.
Oh. Michael, you'll still be able to help us for a little bit in terms of understanding.
The presidency.
It's the chair. I'll sit on the floor.
And just so you know, I sent out an email about a boards and commissions training. That's
Yeah.
on Monday, the 23rd. So that'll be really helpful for
Okay.
both of you, especially to know that. And I'm here for support in any capacity. So cool.
Thank you.
All of us attend that?
Everyone, yeah,
Okay.
it's mandatory.
An email that I'd be out of town, so
Yeah, I got that. That's
you'll have to update me at our next meeting.
Yeah.
I know, it doesn't matter.
I can video it for you.
That's okay, I won't watch it.
That's happening. I think it'll be super helpful. You know, we kind of fly by the seat of our pants and the guidance of our clerk. So thank you for organizing that.
I will say, this board needs that a lot less than a lot of other boards. This is a very well-run and communal and lets everybody speak kind of board and
Exactly.
whatever.
Diplomatic.
Just, I'll leave other stuff unsaid, but yes, it's just, yeah, understand. You are to be commended for sure for like really well-reasoned and well-planned and well-run meetings.
Does the president, is it chair? Guess it's chair and chair-elect. Is that immediate or is that at the next meeting?
It's immediate, yeah. So,
I
yes.
yield the floor.
All right.
The gavel.
Hey, do we jump on to the next thing?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. I didn't read this before coming, so the ArtWalk recap. Is
Yeah,
that
it's kind of
just-
interesting because I set the agenda and now it's yours. So there you go. Yeah, I think this is that open section where we can just like kind of hit the points of the art walk, any issues, reception, any issues, notes for next year, kind of thing.
The speakers, Lesha, Brian, what did you guys think of that microphone? It was really up close and personal.
I mean, Ross gave us a little training like halfway through because it's a very directional microphone, so you have to have it like pointed down your throat basically for it to make any noise. So I wasn't like overly impressed by the rec center's mic or speaker system.
But was it better than last year, than the little packs? I wasn't in the audience, so I couldn't tell how much you could hear, but I know in previous years when I've attended, like I could hear nothing unless you're
Really?
right up to you, so.
Mhm.
I would say in the audience, when people were really on it and speaking clearly and enunciating, you could hear it. But I think part of the issue or part of the idea was, hey, let's try this thing. If we really like it, we'll get one for our own use and let other people use it. I think maybe the idea is we don't get that one, but we maybe look at something else. So in that case, big success. It was yeah. And I apologize. It was my goal to sort of take charge of that, and it took a bazillion emails and a bunch of weirdness with the rec center, and then ultimately it was sort of taken out of my hands. And I'm not quite sure how that happened. And so my apologies. I had tried to take that off of your plate and sort of get it done, and then it just sort of it got weird and sideways. And so in any case, I think by next year, what we'll do is try to find our own. My thought would be, I would propose that we get our own microphone with a better setup and a good mic. And
Did we know
Have it.
what the cost of that was?
I think the unit they have is like $250.
yeah, and I think for
Maybe we
like,
want to budget for 500 and get something a little bit nicer.
I think for $500 or $600, you can get something that's predictable, a little bit more like industry standard connections,
Right.
not
Can
like
be
little stuff. That
moving
microphone
around.
is
Yeah.
like one step up from the like
Karaoke. or-
Yeah, Fisher Price, yeah.
Karaoke.
Easy bake oven quality.
So I don't know if anybody can comment. I'm not familiar enough with the budget. After we're done with the honorariums that we pay, how much money do we have to play with?
Not a lot. I think last year we had like $3,000 to $5,000, some of which went towards some maintenance. I don't think we had a full roster of artists last year though, so I would expect that to be less this year.
And is that common that the remaining balance of the budget always goes to repairs? of
No, I
equipment?
think the way that the budget works is that there is an annual allocation that at the end of the year does not roll over.
Right.
And so if there is any funds, it's just kind of like in the interest to use it towards something. And if maintenance is one of the things that's needed, then it happens to go to that.
Got it.
So I guess potentially we could look at if we do have money left over this year, which we don't know yet, that maybe we could purchase this year
Mhm.
and not let the money go.
The speak sound system.
Mhm. Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense.
And I'm just looking at, does anybody know how many sculpture honorariums we gave out? I know Lori's not on the call, but
I think there was 14, right? Was there one, or were all 15 filled?
well, I'm
Sorry,
counting
for eight,
15
how many
pictures on the,
Sorry?
I'm counting 15.
Then
Pictures.
I think it's safe to assume that they all got honorariums.
And so 15 is our max as far as you know?
Correct. Yep.
Did that go down? Because I remember one year I thought we had like 18.
Yeah, we, at one point we were including the library and
So that-
so there was like 16 or 17, I think. But we took that off of the walk
Okay.
because it was just, there were a few that were like a little further out and it was like hard to get to those in the art walk specifically. So I think they just fell off the show
Okay.
lineup.
There were also several additional sculptures that were dropped and added, but not to the
Not to the wall.
photo. But those are also part of the art walk, but not in the brochure, and they did not get an honorarium, correct?
Correct. Because so they're not technically in the show.
Okay, okay.
And we didn't take them to these, we didn't take them to these sculptures then, right? They weren't part of the.
Correct.
Correct.
I'm looking at the budget, the most recent budget I have, there's 15 honorariums. Total year to date is just under 20,000. I think our budget this year was 25, so there will still potentially be some expenses that show up on the next month's report. So I wouldn't assume that the balance of that is available, but that's kind of where things stand at the moment.
And to clarify, these printouts that we get, the handouts, that is we bear the cost of that versus the
Correct.
city, correct? Okay.
I had to Bill Morrow, but there'll be expenses around that if we
Mhm.
move forward with that.
And that's where I think we're kind of getting off subject a little bit, but that's where I think it's worth clarifying that there is an annual CPAC budget allocation from trustees that is a line item within Public Works, as far as I understand, That's $25,000 a year. It's use it or lose it. Then, in addition to that, there is a 1% fund. That fund holds a balance and carries over. So if an artwork sells from the show, the commission gets entered into that fund, the 1% fund balance. If the pool project or Chacos Park, any of those 1% projects distribute money to CPAC, it gets held there and the expenses for those projects would come out of there. The only other ongoing expense that comes from that 1% budget that we agreed on is maintenance can come from that. So there needs to be some reserve. But my understanding, and I've been asking for this from town, is a statement of what that fund balance is, and I have not received that. What I've been told is it's somewhere around $30,000. And so I think that is the money that would potentially support the Insana Cycle installation, any work that needs to happen to that to make it suitable for display.
And then do you have, for like the maintenance that's occurring, do you have like a record, or does town have a record of, you know, like this sculpture here, we did maintenance on 2020 and this one's on 2021?
I think Lori has that.
Or has it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And do we know, so for example, the 1% that comes from the pool, if for some reason we don't use the full amount, does the balance just remain? So for example, if we get 50K from it and we spend 35, do we
Yeah.
keep the other 15?
There, in the resolution, which I encourage you guys to take a look at, it states that I think 15% of that can be allocated for other uses. So the intent is for that to be used on site for those projects. CPAC as a group can vote to retain up to 15% for other uses. That's my recollection of how I understand it. The pool project, we've kind of voted on. That money is being used in full and beyond, with just general funding for that project for what they're looking at as the art component. Chacos Park will be the next one that there will be some
Proposal.
conversation. The rec department will need to present with their project design team and architect what they intend to use that for and what that process will be. And this group can decide how they want to be involved in that.
Perfect.
Is the pool project, is there a final cost projection on that so we know what our 1% is, or is that still in flux?
Yeah, it gets a little bit in the weeds in terms of what that looks like. Traditionally, I think the way that the resolution is written is that when the project goes to bid, that's the number that's used. Not all projects get bid at the same point in time. And so, and after the bid, the numbers can change. So the resolution is written to the best of its ability at the time that it was written. And the pool project is a unique process in that it's not a design, bid, build. It's more of a, like, there's a technical term for it, but it's more of like an ongoing management process. So,
That it is.
so you know, I think Chacos Park, they're working on final construction documentation right now. And then that will go out for pricing if they don't already have a pricing set. And so that would be a good time to understand what the amount for that, like 1% would look like.
In the case of the pool, that 1% has basically been lassoed to be used for the glass brick, which is, you know, there are arguments for and against that type of a use. It's not necessarily a piece of art that someone signs, but it's an artistic element that the architect is incorporating into the building. And it kind of changed a fair bit. I'm comfortable that the architect's comfortable with its use creatively and is happy with it. And that's ultimately, I think, fair game kind of at this point. But I think it's certainly within CPAC's realm to, you know, on the next project to say, no, we want this to be a art, a piece of art, whether it's included or not, but something maybe more artsy, something, I mean, however you want to define that. You know, I think it's certainly within the realm of CPAC's authority to guide that. In this case, I don't think it's a bad idea to throw that money towards the brick.
I'd be happy to give an update. I had a conversation with the architect and Eric Brindlinger about Chacos Park months and months and months ago at this point. I can like share an update at a later point in time so that we can stay on the agenda for today.
Great. I have another question for the ArtWalk recap. Is like, what did the attendance look like from this past year to previous years? For those who've done multiple.
Same or maybe better to me.
With the weather, I think we were lucky.
Mhm.
So right before we started, somebody counted 63 people.
Well,
So somebody, I don't know,
remember
somebody
doing- yeah.
counted. And then I think as we were
Yeah.
walking around, people joined in. So like, you know, well, I guess we had 70 to 75 people, which I think is more than we had last year. 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, my observation was that it was like on par or better than typical turnout, especially, and then like, yeah, considering the weather, I think, you know, I was at the last minute wondering if we were gonna have 15 people, and so it was a
Yeah.
great surprise to see that many people turn out.
It is nice, especially with the artists there. I think they really appreciated that. It's, at some point, I'd like to talk about the marketing, so whenever, I don't know if this is a good time to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at with the attendance to see like, again, Lori's not here, but to say this is kind of what we did do, and we did get 75 people, 60 to 70. And that was higher numbers than normal. And then see how we can improve upon that for the future also.
Well, I think if you get too much bigger, you know, I think it's great to have all those people there, but there's only so many people you can put on a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then are they emptying out onto the street so they can, you know, does it become a safety concern?
Right.
Is there any thought, and I just thought about this idea because I'm going to an event and it's free, but they ask for RSVPs. I mean, maybe that's something we can try to consider. So my thought is, I mean, we've talked about before, if we get too big of a group, like, why don't we split the group up? And of course, that would mean we would need 2 speakers. But, you know, you could not have that many people because it does get cumbersome, and we are standing on the street at times with cars trying to drive through. But
Well, and with the artists, if they would stay at their art,
Right.
then that could, you know, be something we could do.
Mm-hmm.
and I guess I'd rather have the problem of too many people there than too few people, right, for exposure for the artists. And I thought the signage around town was great, but I guess I'd like to see perhaps more day of or week of, you know, announcement on the Carbondale Town website, you know, something in the Soper Sun. Carbondale Arts, you know, in their story all that week say, don't forget to go to the art walk. And I didn't see any of that kind.
I thought there was an ad in the Soper Sun, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, there definitely was an ad in the Soper Sun, and I know it was listed in like the Creative District newsletter. And I mean, maybe not on the Carbondale Arts Social, but
Yeah.
those are definitely things that
Yeah.
can happen.
Yeah.
And a question regarding that, kind of trying to understand the responsibility of CPAC versus what Lori's role is. Is Lori placing those ads, or is that something that CPAC should drive?
She has placed those ads just because she has that connection and writes those checks.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that if somebody, is willing to take that on, I think it would be a conversation with Lori to figure out how
Okay.
that support could help happen.
And does Lori issue all checks? Like there's no like CPAC credit card that you can give out?
Nope. Yeah, she would have to she probably submits the invoice to
Mhm.
finance that issues the check. So
Gotcha.
there's a process for that.
Okay.
And I know Lori mentioned that she placed something online and I don't recall what she did. So that may be a conversation to understand what she does in preparation for this and then kind of see where we can fill in the blanks perhaps. I would still like to understand why we can't have an Instagram account that we can advertise.
I think we learned that we can. I think it's just a matter of figuring out how that is set up and who is the administrator and has access to that account. Because you looked into it and I believe, said that we're kind of okay to do that.
Yeah, so CPAC has a Facebook account or page. I'm not quite sure what it is. Anna, our public information officer, is the one who manages all that and is happy to put whatever you want on it. You just have to get the information to her by, before her deadline or whatever that might be. Believe the art walk was in the June newsletter from the town, if you guys are signed up for that. So it definitely went out the week of. I don't know about the social media accounts. But yeah, so there is definitely a Facebook, and I'm pretty sure Anna can make an Instagram for you as well. You would just have to send her the media to put on it. And she's happy to do as much or as little as you guys want.
Cool. Hi.
I'm curious, because this was my first reception at the distillery and it was quite packed. Was that typical? Do you usually get such a good response?
Pretty shoulder to shoulder in there,
Mhm.
which was great, but I had not been either before. That seemed,
I think they seem like everyone ends up there because that's where the art walk ends. And so I think at the beginning, it's been my observation that at the beginning, it's very packed and then it starts to dwindle off, whether it's the people on the walk or the artist, et cetera. But Marble's been very generous to us, which is why we go there.
Do they pay for all the food there? The Marble Distillery
no, I think
contribution?
that's the donation from Rebecca Lodge.
Yes.
So the town cannot purchase alcohol, so the sponsorship and the donation typically go to supporting the booze. CPAC in its budget pays for the venue and catering. Or
Okay.
Marble provides the food, the catering, food. So that comes out of our budget.
Okay.
No, I thought the reception was very nice and I saw quite a few of the artists there as well. So that was good.
Can't really think of a larger space that serves alcohol in town. Or much larger.
Yeah, I mean, with the with the date being pretty, set far in advance, it could be anywhere that can have either like a gallery liquor license or request a special event permit. So it's not necessarily limited to an existing establishment with a liquor license. But yeah, So I think that the nice thing about marble has been that it is one of the like ends of the walk, like naturally, but it's not.
I will also
not
say
set.
that we did it one year over at the Clay Center, and it was a lot of work and not something that I would want to do again. We were hauling in because we had bought, well, it wasn't our funds, but we did, Sopris Liquors, I think, donated some of the beer and the wine and the food, but we had to set up everything, and then we had to man the bar. And so I don't think you want to do it at a place that doesn't have that already in place unless you like to work really hard.
Good to know.
What is that new food court or truck court that's going in? Is that going to have a bar attached to it?
Yeah.
I mean, that potentially, if it's a bigger outdoor and bar space, I mean, it's something to explore next year. I love the distillery. I mean, I love that they opened it up. But yeah, it got quite busy.
I don't know that the town line would be any bigger. I mean, maybe outside it might be, but if you have inclement weather, you're kind of stuck.
Right.
And then do we want to talk about the damage? I don't know anything about the damage.
Yeah, I just, again, Facebook post that said it was, I think, damaged during First Friday. I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, being right in the midst of all the crowds. So I was just curious what the process, if that's happened in the past and what the process is for reimbursing the artist.
Insured.
Yeah, there's insurance as part of the contract with the artists. That claim will get filed. And I think, I don't know how the contract is exactly written, but I think they're entitled to that amount as the artist. I don't know the story. I'd be interested if there's any more information about it, if Lori has heard anything, because ceramic sculpture outside, I think, is a little challenging to begin with. And when I looked at the piece, it was clear that there were like some separate ceramic sections pieced together with some adhesive, and it looks like that adhesive failed at some point lower down. I don't know if somebody was climbing on it or leaned up against it or bumped into it accidentally. And so I don't know how much of that was, a claim against like the artwork failing to hold up to the expectation of it being outdoor public sculpture versus how much of it was, like an unavoidable thing. We've had the sculpture at Snowmass, by the food truck court that's going in, has been hit by cars in the past, and that obviously is something where a vehicle against a sculpture, like there's going to be some damage. This one, I don't know if it's as clear of a kind of story there, but hopefully Lori has some more info.
Have you guys had issues with other mediums in the past, like a ceramic or like a wood or something that's not as durable as like a stone or a
There was a
powder coated?
sculpture at that same spot, actually, not the last year's show, but the year before that, that I think in the pictures we assumed was a stone material, but it was actually like a foam product that started to crack and have issues.
Just thinking like if we need to change our, RFQ to say like no ceramic or no. I don't know if we would want to put limitations on it, but
The piece that was at the launch pad in the last round had ceramic pieces attached to it. And I think if it's well thought out. It works really well. You know, my suggestion would be to look at that contract and make sure that it's explicit that if the artwork fails due to like materiality or durability, that that claim isn't like awarded in full or whatever. You know, like I think there's some nuance to, yes, ceramic is fine, but there's maybe some liability that is assumed by the artist.
Yeah, okay.
I think that location, you know, I went and looked at it, I heard about it, I went over there and looked at it, and I know I had met her when I was around during the installation, and then I went over there and I think I got ahead of everyone, and I met her, and she had glued that sections together just before everyone came there, with some kind of epoxy. But anyhow, I think my thought is that it's probably not the best location to put a piece of art that could potentially be broken. You know, that's, you know, a lot of drinking goes on around town on first Fridays, and, you know, people don't make exactly wisest choices. And maybe it behooves us to put something there a little
Sturdier.
sturdier, maybe even dangerous, like pointy things sticking out. But
Do we know if the artist has been notified?
I have rumors that you know, third hand from, or second hand from a town employee, that the person who did it fessed up, that the town was talked to this person, and it was an accident. They tried to climb up on it and sit on it. Yeah, it was at 2 a.m, because at 1 a.m, the sculpture was fine, at 2 a.m, it wasn't. I don't know, make of that what you will, but anyhow, that's what I heard. And it's a rumor, only a rumor. Probably shouldn't say in public space, public meeting, but
Well, no, I mean, I think it's valuable because, you know, one of the kind of terms I've heard tossed around in public art circles is like it needs to pass the 300-pound gorilla test, right? Like if somebody's going to come up and manhandle this or climb on it, what's the implication? And you know, I think when we're looking at the sculptures for selection, just like passing it through that layer
lens, yeah.
and saying like, okay, we have concerns about this. It's a beautiful piece. We'd love it in the show. You know, does it fit that criteria?
Just hard when it's not in person, like you're looking at a tiny photo on the screen sometimes.
Those thumbnails are so little.
But knowing that it's ceramic too, I think there could have been maybe a better location for it. Instead of, I mean, that's really the main, yeah.
And at that height, I
We
mean,
know more?
yeah, you want to climb on that.
Sorry. I mean,
About what happened.
about what the town knows that hasn't gotten passed down to the commission.
No, I haven't heard what Frank has heard. Sarah is the artist. She emailed me since Lori's out of town, Monday, letting me know that it had been vandalized or broken or whatever. But that's all I know. And yeah, I think the insurance claim process is likely already in.
Was there a police report on it?
I don't know. I don't work for the police, but yeah, I'm not sure.
It's curious if that would have passed through.
That's needed for insurance.
Right.
That's sad, because it was such a good turnout for the walk, and she seems so excited about her art being in the show.
You grew up in Carbon Day.
I know. But I think it's what Michael said is really true. We'll have to put that lens out there.
For next year.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like replacing it, do we reach back out to that same artist to say, hey, do you have any other pieces that you might want to put forward that aren't ceramic? In terms of next steps, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a prominent location, so there's definitely some value in figuring out what happens with the remainder of the piece that's there. And if it is to be removed, what goes in its place and what the timeline is for that.
Yeah. The small scope.
That would be
Um,
intimidating.
I do think it would be considerate for us as a commission to reach out to her directly and just, like express our kind of sadness at the whole situation, just open that communication with her so that, it's not a impersonal insurance claim kind of process for her. I
Yeah,
think just as an artist that we're working with, it may be nice for her to have a human touch from a community member.
yeah, I can do that.
And I guess back to the vacant marble that's no longer got a sculpture. There's those other sculptures that were taken, the extra ones from the artist that they were not in a prominent location. Maybe one of those would go in there.
Mm.
I didn't see those I think there were 2 of them that were extras that we took without an honorarium.
Campfire was one, and then there's the third one is out on the highway.
Any of them have sharp points on them or something?
Campfire may be too big for that spot, I think, but I can't remember what the other one is on 3rd Street.
Maybe do we know when Laura gets back to town?
She's gone.
I think just a week, yeah.
Okay.
She'll be back next week, yeah.
Because then maybe she can tell us what size sculpture that.
I thought,
I'd love to give the opportunity to the artist again. I just don't know how that works with the honorarium. Like, is she fine with any insurance payout and then you can replace it because it's a spot for you? But I guess we would have to vet it to make sure that it's appropriate and sturdy. That's the right spot for it. But
Yeah.
I guess it would be nice. It was a great spot for her, right? For her
Mhm.
art. So I hate to take that away from her because somebody damaged it. It's not of her doing.
does anyone remember her?
Go ahead, Frank, sorry.
Does anyone remember her saying she'd made 3 of those?
I don't remember that conversation.
Mm.
But when I look around at these marble bases and I think about where is a place that could be safe for something that might not be fitting the 300-pound gorilla test, the only space I see that might work would be the one in front of the launch pad, because it's in front of a building, it's not on the main street, and it's kind of in a flower bed. Yeah, I don't know.
So have we ever like put plexiglass up around stuff to protect it so people don't touch it?
For a whole year,
What's it?
like a whole year.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how strong that stuff is.
I've never seen that in the public art that I've seen in different spaces.
I think it's a typical practice.
Just thinking out in the hallway, there's the wire, what's that gal's name? Made the wire things?
Is it Nelson?
Yeah, yeah. What if we had a pedestal right in the middle of this and had other kind of more fragile art, I don't know, fiber art, ceramic art, wire like that, I don't know.
I think my thought on having Sarah replace that is that now we're open to someone doing that again.
Well, we'd ask for something stronger.
Yeah,
Not
if she
the
worked in
ceramic.
any other mediums,
Oh, does she?
she might.
I can imagine another ceramic piece that doesn't have isn't compressible like that one really seemed to be.
Yeah, all the negative space.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or if she's willing to forego the insurance liability and take that risk, assume a risk that she puts something else out there.
Right.
Second time. Okay.
Well, I did go to some of the installs for the art and it seemed to go really smooth and the people from the town that did the work were very proficient and just seemed to go very well.
Mhm.
I know it's hard to organize it because you don't know when people are coming in and everything, so kudos to Lori for doing all that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that artists really appreciate about this show is how responsive and helpful the town is specifically. And it reminds me that in years past, we've offered as a commission to do something nice for the town public works employees who go that extra mile. Like at one point, it was like a pizza party or something. But I think if there's some token of appreciation, even just like a thank you card with like, a nice note or some kind of gift certificate so that they can like have an office lunch where it's not extra for them to show up to, but just something that to show our appreciation is a thoughtful gesture for
I
sure.
second that motion. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seemed like a well-oiled machine,
Definitely.
as far as doing that work. So,
Okay. Anything else for the art walk? Any other comments?
I would share what I shared at the Board of Trustees meeting, which is that I had a couple of friends from Aspen who were down, and I think there was a little bit of sort of borderline envy, just like they certainly enjoyed the art, but I think just the sort of the community, the real like authentic community experience to it, like it had a real authentic small town vibe, but creative small town that cares about this stuff and is having fun being out. I mean, even like the popping of a wine bottle in the middle of the speech was the audible pop of a wine bottle, it's kind of funny. I don't know. Wasn't me. But anyway, I just thought it was a wonderful vibe, that was the first time I had actually participated.
And I had a feeling, and two other people mentioned to me that they thought the quality of the art was a little better than in years past.
well, and I had invited some friends from Aspen and Snowmass and they didn't make it because I guess it was just pouring rain
Yeah.
up there. So, I think getting the word out every year will be great. I mean, I did have a chance to visit with Paul Reimer, and he's the sculptor
Yeah.
that did that fish hook, one of my favorite ones that's now in basalt. And he was saying that he told me that they had placed the fish hook. I don't know if you all have been to basalt yet to see it. I was there over the weekend and the placement seems like it would be good, but if you're driving downtown towards it, through town, you can't even see it because it's covered by some kind of a sign. And it was just kind of a reminder to me that when we're putting these up, to always think about how they're going to be seen either from the road or from the bike path. But it's pretty stunning the way they placed it. You'll see it now when you go to Basalt, or you won't
Yeah.
because of the sign. Yes.
Okay, shall we move on? Am I allowed to say that? Just like that? Okay, cool. So the Insana Cycle update.
About 2 minutes till 2, my phone rang and I looked who it was and I declined the call and then I went out there and called. Bill passed away a few minutes ago.
Oh,
Um,
should have a moment of silence.
You don't want they haven't notified all the family yet, so we'll just keep that close for now. But anyhow, I sent out an email. I met with the Third Street Center. They're very enthusiastic about receiving it. All right, that was hard to say. I sort of think there's like four steps that need to happen next. One is to work on an acceptance letter for the piece of art. I have a letter that he would like to donate it to us, so Nancy, as caretaker, says would like to have this acceptance letter that we will accept this art, with immense gratitude. And she's always, we're going to permanently display this on town property. And she asked that, the letter say something about it being insured and maintained in perpetuity. So I don't know if one or two of us would like to work on an acceptance letter. And I'm thinking if I could delegate, one or two of us take a few of these steps. I'll go through all the steps that I see, and maybe there's others. There should be some kind of plaque there, identifying the artist and the work. And on the website, there's a photo, and it's a photo of Bill in front of the Insana Cycle. I went over to Royd Fork Signs over on 8th Street. Asked them if they could, possible to put a photograph on a brass plaque. And they're like, yeah, it's certain, they can etch it in there. And they can do that from a JPEG photo. And I know Bill sort of kind of wanted like his image on some plaque somewhere. So anyhow, a 10 inch by 10 inch plaque was like $320. But the etching of a photograph would be more, and they didn't know until they see the photograph. 6 by 6 was like half price, like 150 or something. And it depends on the thickness of the brass and some other things. But anyhow, I just got a ballpark number for a plaque. And then some of us could work on the wording on that plaque. Once we have the wording and whatever artwork or images, then we can get a price. And then we can all decide if that's what we want to do. Another step would be working on the exact location at 3rd Street Center and the orientation of it. Few of us could, or all of us, whatever, could work on that and work with 3rd Street. There'll probably be conversations with Public Works about what kind of base it's on and how it's mounted and all that. So that's another step, another bit of work that needs to be done. And then I guess, talk to Lori and go, when will they want to go pick it up? Lori had an email about moving it to the Public Works yard and just having it there so that they could plan,
The
get
size of the base.
exact measurements and, and the base and, it was displayed in front of the co-op. The wheels were just on the ground, but the kickstand and the rider person were elevated. And according to my measurements, 1 block, 3.5 inches. So whatever sort of base thing, So anyhow, they want to move the sculpture to Public Works, take the measurements, consult with whoever, concrete person or whatever kind of base they're gonna wanna have this on. Seems,
That may take a little time. Did the family have any idea how quickly they wanted to get it off of their property?
well, we were hoping all this would happen while he was still alive, but it didn't. But I think it would behoove us, the town, to write a letter, accept a donation, and go get the piece of work and bring it here. Even if it sits at
Yeah.
Public Works for the rest of the summer and doesn't get installed till later in the summer or fall or whatever. Um,
Definitely.
That's what I think, but I don't know what you all think.
So may I ask a quick question?
Sure.
At some point, Michael, did you mention that we can only recommend to the town? So we have to go through that step and have the trustees accept the donation?
Yes, that's correct. And I'm not sure of the exact process for getting it on the agenda to the trustees. We should look into that.
That would be step one.
Yep.
I feel like Lori said something about the town has some kind of paperwork when they accept something. That would need to happen as well. Yeah, do you remember something?
I don't remember mentioning paperwork, but I mean, it makes sense that for something to be donated.
That would go back, I guess, with the letter of acceptance. If it were approved, the paperwork would go with them.
Probably as like one big packet.
So do we know if we've had this kind of situation before, accepting a donated one?
We have. You know, and it's been interesting. There was a piece that was across from the smithy next to the Rebecca Lodge for a while called Helping Hands that was donated, and it was a little like it wasn't recorded well, and the piece had some maintenance issues, and so it was decided to deinstall it. This group advocated for contacting the artist rather than it just going to the scrapyard. And that artist eventually we were able to contact him and he uninstalled it. But I think there's probably some best practices to accepting donations and being clear about what the like deacquisition process is. And it's a little complicated in this instance with bills passing. I don't know if Nancy holds the like power of attorney.
Well, I have this letter that he's donating it
Yeah,
to gift of my sculpture entitled Insane Cycle to the Carbondale Public Arts Commission for the Art Around Town Permanent Collection.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's going to be super helpful. There may just be some additional like things that need to be signed off on. We'll have to have a more detailed conversation with Lori on that. And Frank, she's back in town on Monday, so I would encourage you to reach out to her and figure out how to make that process the most efficient and painless for everyone dealing with his estate and his work. So,
And Frank, I can go with you to that too. If we want to have like a meeting with Lori to go through all of the required steps in order to accept it. Just so that, 2 years.
So she's back Monday. I'll shoot her an email and see if I can meet with her Monday or Tuesday. Town council meets, it won't be on next week. It won't be on the next week, but maybe I don't know how busy you are. But
Um,
maybe sometime this month or next month, you get it on the town agenda?
24th would be the earliest, and then I think the 8th of July would be the following meeting.
that sounds about right. I don't have my schedule right in front of me. I don't think it'd be a tough thing to add to the calendar or to the agenda. It's been pretty full up to now since we're choosing a new town manager on Friday, hopefully.
Has anybody had experience with donations? Do the trustees, because in this case, I'm assuming, I know in the past, some donations have had stipulations on them, like where they want it placed, et cetera. The Public Arts Commission is making the decision of where to put it, and there's no strings attached to it, so to speak. In general, do the trustees just say if CPAC is good with it, then let's go with it?
So I think they would defer to our judgment and dialogue on it. For the most part, I think if we presented like a memo that detailed the context and the conversation here about location and the next steps, that the conversations with Third Street have happened, that conversations with Public Works have happened, and so that they know that the due diligence has been done in terms of what we're accepting and how it's going to be dealt with, so they're not questioning whether or not we're just accepting this thing without a clear plan. I think that would alleviate any issues.
I could even imagine having that acceptance letter written, but not delivered, but so it's there ready, so we could take a look at it and say, oh yeah, that sounds great. And I think it actually is a sort of a compelling letter too. Anytime you're putting ourselves out there as being thankful recipients of a gift, it's great. The only thing I think that we would have to kind of consider or ponder that there'd be any discussion over would just be costs of transportation. And as long as that we have a solid estimate of that,
Frank, I looked for the email and I know it was discussed. Public Works can transport that, or they said they needed so and such crane company to move it.
A Public Works employee went out to see the sculpture in Rifle and determined that they can't move it or lift it with their truck or whatever they have.
cannot, right?
Correct.
Cannot.
So that they would have to hire a boom truck like, I can't think of his name at the moment. Richie's
Crane, yeah.
or someone like that. And then, Burley Joe? No, what's his
Joe.
first?
Yep.
Over at the Roaring Forge?
Joe Burley.
Yeah, Joe Burley. They moved it from Carbondale to Rifle. I don't know what equipment they used or whatever, but they moved it. And then they could potentially move it back.
Yeah.
But, it's going to be a cost. And I don't know what all the costs are. Is that out of CPAC funds or is that
1%,
Carbondale
I
Town
would
funds
think.
or is that
Yeah.
a 1% fund? I made a motion several meetings ago to accept a donation with a $15,000
Allowance.
cost limit. And we all voted yay on that, but that's just pulled a number out of the air.
So
Anyhow.
does the crane can the town still transport it? They just need the crane to get the sculpture onto the truck, or do they need someone else to transport it as well?
I have to double check with Lori, but I understood that they would hire someone else to move it from Rifle to the Public Works yard. And then
Cost again to move it.
another cost to move it Yeah, to move it from
They
the,
were, and they were also recommending some work be done to make sure it was suitable for being out in public. Like there's just probably some spot welds and stuff that, so yeah, definitely there's some costs involved in all of that. I think that coming up with a clear installation plan, will be the biggest factor in what that expense is. The crane will probably be a couple $1,000s, if at most, hopefully, for the transportation. That's all stuff that I think Lori can help hammer out. If not, then I think there are people in town that we know are capable of doing that work. And if there's value in looking outside of town staff to perform some of the work in transportation, then, I'm happy to help, with the resources that I have or connections that I have to help, figure out, can we just move it separately and have that paid for through CPAC rather than, or the installation as well. Right? 3rd Street, I think Mark and Colin would at least entertain the idea of hiring somebody to have that installed and it not being a public works problem to solve, possibly.
And did we clarify, it will be on town property? That was,
has to be.
Yeah.
okay, just
Let's
one,
kind of eliminated the Rio Grande Trail
okay.
133 because according to Lori, if it's, town property, it needs to be, the artwork belongs to the town. It needs to be on town property for
And,
a lot of reasons, I guess, insurance being one of them.
and I'd like to help with the effort too, if you can include me on the meeting, with the meeting. And
Oh, okay.
take that.
And hearing you talk about like the plaque or the art, it reminded me of another thing that from the art walk that I forgot to mention earlier. And one of the artists that exhibited in front of town hall, she actually brought on paper printout a QR code that took whomever zoomed in on it to her website. And I'm wondering if we might want to incorporate that in future plaques for the artist, if they would like that to happen as a better way to promote not only the art that's in the art walk, but other art they might have.
That's a great idea.
And I don't know if that might be something, if the photo thing doesn't work out, we could do a QR code on,
To the
The-
website.
yes. Yeah. So anyway, I forgot about that comment earlier, but you reminded me of that. And I'm available to help on this as well. So just reach out.
I know a graphic designer in town who said she might donate her time to do the layout. But we have to come up with the wording and, everything.
Well, and the estate may have, kind of some general form that they would like to see, which would be helpful, actually.
Yeah, Nancy, Bill's caretaker, she had thoughts on that, like what that plaque should look like. So whoever wants to work on that I'll get you in touch with Nancy.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see how it all rolls out, because whomever the executor is will be that person making the decisions going forward.
And I'm reminded of, if you hike Red Hill, Ruthie's Run, they have a plaque up there to Ruthie with pictures. And it's,
Oh, that's a
it's
good
quite
idea.
sustainable, and I don't think that it's bronze or etched, but
Yeah.
that could be a model also. It's withheld with the weather.
Yeah, and the little plaques we have on all the sculptures, I know Lori works with some companies, so There might be like whatever, whoever that company is, they have a relationship. Does anyone want to work on the wording of an acceptance, a draft acceptance letter?
I think I'm happy to do it. I think I'd like to get into that meeting with Lori first and just understand what the parameters are and, you know, what the town might want to hear and, you know, just kind of get some of the requirements and then move forward with the letter. I don't think it has to be
Yeah,
a super long letter. but,
okay. So I'll try to set up a meeting with her, if you'd like to join us, and then we'll email out whatever results or things we came up with.
Yeah, I think Michelle offered to be in that meeting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lunch meeting to me.
Okay, ready to move on?
Mhm.
And then we have the ANB Bank Sculpture. Michael?
I put this on there just because I wasn't sure. I think it may have been communicated, but the new AMB development that is happening at Highway 133, kind of between City Market and 7-Eleven, was interested in placing a sculpture as part of that project. And I think they have chosen to purchase Sidewinder, which is the piece that is right out here. So I think Lori's working through the like agreements with that process. But it's exciting that one of the pieces from this show is, I think, already spoken for.
So ANB Bank are they building apartments or what are they building there?
It's a mixed use project, so the ground floor is commercial, and I think the upper floors have some residential units. One of the reasons why this is notable is there's been a number of projects that have happened in the past 3 to 5 years where public art has been kind of attached to the approvals process, and it has not been consistent at all. The murals, as you're entering on the highway, where the sculptures and the murals are, was kind of thought through from the design perspective of that project. The funding mechanism was kind of thought through. The other mural or storage unit that has a mural on it closer to the roundabout, I don't think was as thought through. And so, you know, it's great to have art. They hired a California-based artist to come in and do that work. He had done some work on the building where Kula and Ploskis is. So, and then this AMB is another example of where they said, you know, in order to show our appreciation of Carbondale and fit into the culture and ethos of this place, we'd like to include some public art. And so they present that to P&Z, and P&Z says, thank you for doing that. But there has been very little intent behind that process, in my personal opinion. And I think there's room, you know, the 1% resolution is written in a way where it's really specific to town capital improvement projects, but there is a sentence in there that says that this commission is encouraged to promote private development to adhere to that 1% process. So they're not beholden to it, but I think when these projects come up, and developers are presenting to planning and zoning, board of trustees, and asking what they can do to kind of ingratiate themselves to the approvals process. I think we have a responsibility to say there's a process for this, rather than just what has happened is this kind of art washing where it's just like, we'll plop something here and you guys will be good with it. They may spend $2,000, they may spend $150,000. The 1% gives us a benchmark for what that can be. And I think that talking to the trustees, talking to planning staff, and kind of codifying what that can look like would be a valuable step in making that consistent. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree. I mean, I would love to see it incorporated as part of the development process in the private sphere. That's 1% though. That's, that eats into profits and penciling in, making projects work or not. I think it's completely reasonable. But I think the idea of just like, if they're going to say, well, we're going to do something like along those lines, really strongly suggesting, and I think it's probably, since most of this goes through P&Z first, probably the correct avenue is to talk with them and say, hey, if they're going to nod and say, yes, this is great, then make it of a commitment to 1% and through these rules, or not a 1%, but not sort of wrap themselves in this 1% idea, but then ultimately not follow through.
Yeah, the other example that just came to mind is the Creative District logo on the Building First Source thing. And that was something that, like, as, somebody who is involved in the Creative District, we had very little idea that was even happening, and we were approached last minute. Just like giving some consistency to it, I think makes a lot of sense. I appreciate your comment, Ross, about just like talking to P&Z about that. Yeah.
I understand the 1% guideline similar to the public buildings, but is there any suggestion that this artwork should also come through CPAC on these private buildings so that we can have a consistent look throughout town?
There is currently not, right? Like any of the private development stuff falls outside of that. So in some cases, it's been on the developer to commission an artist and they handle that all on their own. In other cases, they've looked like outside. I think with the mural and at the sculptures and murals at the storage unit, that agreement was made between the developer and Carbondale Arts and presented to Planning and Zoning and said, Carbondale Arts will administer that process, and Planning and Zoning approved it based on that criteria.
Question is, should we be more involved with that?
I think there's certainly value,
It's public art, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think that if there is that conversation with Planning and Zoning, developers may be less likely to do that if they have to come before another board and get another group's approvals, but figuring out how there's some communication with the Public Arts Commission, I think, is valuable. Other communities have an optional thing that's like, okay, if you're not going to do that 1% at your site, you can contribute that to the 1% fund, and we can allocate that to public art in whatever medium manner we decide. So it could be something that just helps feed that 1% fund so that when we have Insane Cycles donated, we're not looking so closely at the budget and have a little bit more of a fund to allocate as we see fit.
So how much was Sidewinder?
10,000, I believe.
Something like that.
It was a bargain.
Yeah.
I think it was a
Definitely a
bargain.
bargain.
Just one last question about that. So just to be clear, so some of the murals that you refer to, like on the storage unit, like the developer just said, I'm doing this, like nobody in town had to say, yeah, that's, I mean,
But it sounds like the
No, he worked-
creative, yeah.
They work.
No, I'm sorry, not the storage unit on the roundabout.
Oh,
I
yeah.
understand that Carbondale Arts was involved, but every other mural out there, they can just pretty much put whatever they want up there.
A private building owner is allowed to do that. Our community doesn't have any restrictions on that. Some communities need to go through a review process with either a design review board, planning, historical commission if it's a historical building. But currently, that there is no protocol for any public approval process for if somebody wants to paint a mural.
Be great to
interesting.
set up a system for it, especially for the private side of it,
Yeah.
just so that there is a path forward.
And I don't think that it should be cumbersome, but the thought is, what if somebody puts something objectionable up and it just sounds like there's no recourse because nobody in town has to give an approval?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain just general laws and there's a sign code. There are certain like ways to have recourse that, if it were lewd and offensive, then it would fall under other protections. But yeah, as public art goes, there's nobody prohibiting anybody from doing that on their private property.
So then since they're gonna buy Sidewinder, we'll have another base open.
It will be there throughout the show. Yeah, I think that, it'll be deinstalled with the cycle in next spring.
Do you know what commission the CPAC takes of the?
Oh my gosh,
mural?
is it 40,
I thought it was 25,
25?
somebody said 25%. But we
Not a
could
lot.
verify that. As a side note,
Yeah.
somebody at the Art Walk came up to me and expressed great distress over the movement of the buffalo from its original spot to where it is now in front of City Market. And thought about starting a petition to get it moved back. And from what I understand, that was stipulated in the donation that the person that purchased it was able to place it. And I tried to explain that to this citizen. So I don't think anything will come of it, but I thought it was interesting that people do notice and they do have an opinion out there.
Where was it? Oh,
It was just where the bike is now, I believe, farther down on,
I was right across from the swimming pool, the entrance, on that four-way stop, right in front of 689 or.
Buffalo, no, the big buffalo.
Originally,
It was?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
that would have been cool.
he was really cool right there. That's why they miss him. And I think that too, but things move on. And Ernesto has moved on.
I think she was referring to, it was like the meadow was in back of the buffalo. It was, I think, more across from the co-op versus where it is in front
Oh.
of City Market now. And they like the meadow in the background. Just
Well, good luck keeping the net out, right?
Yeah. So,
With all the.
yes, exactly.
Okay. Michael, what do I do now?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
You don't get it.
Oh, that,
Oh,
right.
oh, technicality.
Flag on the play. We're gonna have to keep an eye on you. No more approving minutes.
And when
I
is
gotta
our,
keep my microphone.
is our next meeting moved because of the holiday, or are we?
That's up to you guys to decide when your next meeting is.
So the next meeting would fall on the 2nd? I'm around, but
Me too.
That works.
I'm always here.
Okay, so we'll have the next meeting on the 2nd.
yeah.
We'll see.
Do we have?
Business with the
Insane
cycle. Congratulations, to our new people at the head of the helm. Yes.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, so. Jeff, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a good. There's probably some easy benchmarking. Grand Junction comes to mind. I don't know what their Vanguard program is. Grand Junction. It's just the volume of support that they displays.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
Nice. No, it's just, I think there's just so.
We can feel some.
Bigger than that one. How the practice wasn't good. Like, I don't know what it's called.
Not all.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think they consolidated their downtown space. We are sharing it with the whole team. Which I.
If you guys want to meet separately at some point, just let me know.
Right down.
Back before the July.
Yeah, I'm sure they get that. Knowledge back.
Well.
Oh, it is.
Just don't call it a CPAC meeting. There's 3 or more of you.
Me, I didn't want to. Yeah, sorry.
Bill, I'm happy you did all that work though. It's gonna be great.
Shane, myself, and I don't know what your plans are on Friday, but our youth orchestra has a fundraiser at the barn at RVR.
Oh,
Basically, beer, barbecue, bluegrass, Bob. Just it's super fun. It's just on the
Cute.
porch.
Thanks so much.
It's actually
Yeah.
it's a good deal too. Like
What time is it
like
at?
bar and barbecue.
6 p.m. Cool.
Oh yeah, everyone's gonna be. Are you gonna be here for the whole town manager stuff?
No, I think, wait, isn't it like,
It's all day.
it's like
Friday.
public, aren't you guys doing like
Yeah, we're in
interview
inter-
stuff? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna come Thursday to 3rd Street, but yeah.
Would you let me know what you think when you talk to this?
I was like,
Yeah, I'm serious. Like, I want people to like. I want to.
And as like the
There. Yeah, I'm surprised that she. And one person, and I don't. Yeah. The two who are not in Fruit Valley are impressive, I think. Yeah. She's like a whippersnapper, and I think she's.
But I think that they were like.
I don't think she just. Yeah. Yeah, that guy's super. I mean, that he was number one. I would say that.
I think, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yes. All three. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Part of the Olympia basically.
Yeah. she was impressive in real life. Like, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think she, it'll be, I'm really curious.
There's a reason she made it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she's just like, it's gonna, well, my concern is that it's gonna come down to like, it's gonna be really hard to like, one guy's comfortable and good and could slip right in. The other person offers like, can definitely do it, offers like potential, like even more promise maybe of like, really get. Like, that'll be interesting. I don't know. And then I'm just not as too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've heard that perspective of like, don't hire local.
There was like one other person that could have gone into that mix into the final four that we, that didn't because the local two weren't. But I don't think he was any better than the top.
Yeah.
So who knows? But I really want to hear what people have to say. I don't think a chance like to interact with them because I mean, unless we kind of get in. Yeah, because there's like the meet and greet, but none of us want to like take up someone's time.
Rodeo.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it'll happen either
Yeah.
way.
It'll be- Well, don't hesitate to. I mean, I think we'll hear from staff, but don't hesitate to just like talk to any one of us. Or I really want to know what people think. Yeah. Dogs.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna be an issue.
Well, we never know.